Tonight we will be standing near the lighthouse with no light, where the sea listens more than it speaks, and guidance arrives without brightness or flame. The coast here is long and patient, shaped by centuries of tides that have learned how to touch stone without breaking it. At night the shoreline curves gently into darkness, and the water reflects very little, as if it prefers to keep its thoughts to itself. Waves arrive and withdraw in steady breaths, and the sky above feels wide enough to hold every quiet question ever asked. As you settle in and let the day loosen its grip, subscribe for more gentle bedtime stories created for calm, rest, and slow listening. This stretch of coast has always been known as a safe passage, not because it is easy, but because it asks travellers to pay attention. The air carries the scent of kelp and wet stone, and even before the sea is seen, it can be heard speaking softly to those willing to pause. On a low cliff overlooking the water stands a lighthouse. It is tall and pale, built of smooth stone that catches moonlight and gives it back without sparkle. Its door is solid and weathered, its windows clear, its spiral staircase worn by countless footsteps. Yet at its peak, where a lantern should burn, there is nothing. No flame, no glass lens, no sweeping beam. The lighthouse has never held a light, and still it stands. Sailors notice it from afar, rising faintly against the night. They slow their ships, puzzled. Travellers on land stop and look up, expecting some glow that never appears. Many assume it was never finished, abandoned halfway through its purpose. Others feel uneasy, unsettled by a lighthouse that refuses to shine. Yet shipwrecks are rare along this coast. Boats pass safely, finding their way through fog and darkness with surprising ease. Those who live nearby do not question the lighthouse. Their grandparents remember it exactly as it is. Their great-grandparents spoke of it with the same quiet acceptance. It has never promised light, and it has never failed anyone who approached it with patience. A keeper lives there, though few people see them clearly. The keeper does not trim wicks or polish lenses. There is no oil to refill, no mechanism to wind. Instead, the keeper's work begins each evening as the sky deepens into indigo. They walk the shoreline slowly, listening to the waves strike stone and pull back again. They notice where the sound deepens, where it thins, where echoes linger longer than usual. The keeper feels the wind against their skin, not just its strength but its intention. Some winds push, others guide. The keeper learns the difference. They watch how seabirds move, when they rise, when they settle, and how their calls change before weather shifts. None of this looks like work to an outsider. It looks like standing still, like wandering without aim. Yet the keeper is gathering something far more useful than light. When the keeper returns to the lighthouse, they climb its spiral stairs slowly, hand resting against the stone wall as if greeting an old companion. The staircase holds the warmth of the day and the cool of the night at once. At the top, the keeper opens the lantern room to the air. Wind moves through the space freely, carrying sound, salt, and distance. The keeper stands there, attentive and calm, doing nothing that looks remarkable. Far out at sea, sailors sometimes feel it without knowing why. A subtle sense of orientation, steady and reassuring. It does not arrive as a bright signal cutting through fog. It comes as clarity, a feeling of where not to go, a quiet confidence in a gentle adjustment of course. Some describe it as being guided by the sea itself, as though the water has chosen to speak clearly for once. One night, a young sailor approaches the coast alone. Fog has settled thick and low, softening sound and hiding the horizon. The sea is calm, but the air feels heavy with uncertainty. The sailor scans the darkness, searching for the familiar sweep of light, but finds only shadow. For a moment, fear stirs. The maps feel less certain, the stars are hidden. The world seems to have removed its markers. Instead of pressing forward, the sailor slows the ship. The engine idles. The sails ease. In the quiet, the sailor listens. To the left, the waves sound deeper, fuller, as though the water has more space to move. To the right, they break faster, sharper, whispering of shallows and stone. Trusting sound rather than sight, the sailor adjusts course slightly and waits. The fog thins. The coastline emerges exactly where it should, dark cliffs rising safely away from danger. The ship passes through without incident. The sailor never sees the lighthouse directly, never spots a beam or a glow. Still, gratitude settles in their chest, warm and unexpected. At dawn, the fog lifts completely. The lighthouse stands clear against the pale sky, silent and unchanged. The sailor watches it recede into the distance and feels as though they've been guided by something that did not need to announce itself. Stories like this circulate slowly, carried by word of mouth rather than excitement. Fishermen return home guided by instinct sharpened near the coast. Merchants find themselves calmer when passing the cliffs, less tempted to rush, more willing to wait for better conditions. Travellers speak of a strange quiet that settles over them as they near the lighthouse, as though their thoughts are being gently rearranged. The lighthouse becomes known not as a warning or a signal, but as a reminder that not everything meant to guide must shine, and not everything that shines is meant to guide. One evening, a traveller from inland arrives at the base of the lighthouse. They have heard stories and come expecting mystery or spectacle. Instead, they find only stone, sea, and wind. The keeper meets them at the door without surprise and invites them inside. They climb together in silence, the spiral stairs narrowing and widening with a rhythm that feels almost like breathing. At the top, the traveller looks around, confused. There is no light, they say softly, as if afraid to disturb the space. The keeper nods. Light is useful, they reply, but it is not the only way to see. They stand together, listening to the wind move through the open lantern room. The traveller begins to notice small things. How the sound of the sea changes depending on where they stand. How echoes form patterns. How stillness carries information when one stops filling it with noise. What guides the ships? The traveller asks. Yeah, the same thing that guides people, the keeper answers. Attention. The traveller stays until morning. When they leave, they walk more slowly. They pause often, not from uncertainty, but from awareness. They carry no proof of the visit, no token or mark, yet something has shifted inside them, as if a knot has loosened without being pulled. Years pass. Storms arrive and depart. Waves batter the cliffs, and wind howls through the lantern room. The lighthouse does not respond with light. It responds with presence. Ships continue to pass safely, guided by careful listening rather than brightness. Children in nearby villages grow up hearing about the lighthouse early. They are told it is not broken and not unfinished. It is complete exactly as it is. They learn that guidance can be quiet, that clarity can arrive without force, and that rushing toward light is not always the same as moving toward safety. As the children grow, some leave the coast and travel far inland. Others remain. Wherever they go, the idea of the lighthouse stays with them. In crowded places, when noise becomes overwhelming, they remember the silent tower on the cliff. They slow their steps, they listen, they choose differently. Some nights, the keeper feels the lighthouse working more strongly than usual. These nights are not marked by storms or fog, but by an unusual stillness. The sea lies flat, and the stars seem closer. On such nights, the keeper stands quietly at the top, feeling the coast breathe. Far out, ships adjust their course without knowing why, drawn by a sense of steadiness rather than a signal. The lighthouse ages gently. Its stones darken with rain, then lighten again in sun. The keeper grows older, then younger, as keepers do when the role passes not by command but by readiness. The lighthouse remains unchanged in purpose, offering guidance without instruction. People who pass the lighthouse rarely speak of it loudly. There is nothing dramatic to describe. No blinding beam, no triumphant rescue. Instead, they speak of calm, of safety, of arriving without fear. Some struggle to explain it at all. Over time, the lighthouse becomes part of the inner landscape of those who know it. When life feels uncertain, they recall the way the sea spoke without words. When decisions feel heavy, they remember how slowing down revealed the right direction. On particularly clear nights, when the moon casts a thin silver path across the water, the lighthouse stands like a quiet thought at the edge of the world. It does nothing, and yet its presence shapes everything around it. And now, as your own night deepens and your breathing becomes slow and even, imagine that lighthouse standing calmly against the dark. No beam, no flame, no demand for attention, only steady presence. May it remind you that you do not always need light to be safe, that listening can guide you more gently than sight, and that rest often arrives when you stop searching and allow yourself to be quietly, patiently held as sleep carries you softly home.